Yes, family. I was knocked off. I'm back on though. We ain't going nowhere. You know what I mean? The energy be so strong that it knocks off the vibrational frequency. We tapping in. We raising the frequency. And when you raise the vibrational frequency, it causes friction and disturbance. You dig? It's a vibes. We still here, family. We still here. You know what I mean? Yes, family, it's a vibe still, you know what I mean? Bring the party right back. Right back. Creative vibes. Create and raise the frequency. That's what happens sometimes when the frequency gets raised. It causes disturbances, distortions. Because ain't nobody bringing this truth unless you read the Oahspe. Shout out to the sis who be reading the Oahspe in the morning. I think her name is Awaken Truth or something like that. Big up to the sister in your air. Lodge up yourself, big up yourself. It's a vibes. Let the family chime in and tap in. It's a vibe. Yes, family. Large up yourself. Chime in, chime back in, chime back in. Chime back in, yeah. It's a vibes. Yes, family, everybody chiming back in the building. I see you, Taz. Much respect, beloved. Chicago in the building. Yashra Allah, I see you. It's a vibe. What's up, family? Yaso Fitz. Peace to the righteous God. Sean, I see you. Bethel deep. No doubt we stay deep. Deep in the cosmos. We deep thinkers, critical thinkers, rational thinkers. Diverse in thinking. Cause it's a vibes. So I'm gonna pull up the picture of these beautiful pyramids real quick, man. So check this, yo. You know, this is a vibe, so you know we skip around, we jump around. Touch on whatever topic need to be touched on. Now you looking at yes, family. So check the pyramids, right? Now the pyramids is one of the so-called 7 wonders of the world. But if you notice, the Bible don't even mention the pyramids. How God don't mention the greatest monument on the planet? God ain't gonna got no answer for the pyramids for us. In the Bible, the only time we in Egypt, not the only time, but the highlight of Egypt is the story of Moses. And it said Moses, it said the children of Israel built for Ramses, they built treasure houses for Ramses. Well, Ramses is the new kingdoms. They've been stopped building pyramids during the time of Ramses. The last pyramids that was built was during the Middle Kingdom. The ending of the Middle Kingdom, the collapse of the Middle Kingdom was the end of the Pyramid Age. The Pyramid Age was the Old Kingdom and the Middle Kingdom. The New Kingdom, them niggas wasn't building pyramids no more. So the question is, why does the Bible does not speak of the pyramids and the purpose of the pyramids? If God's supposed to be all-knowing, why do we not know about the pyramids? We have no answer for that. But in the Oahspe, we have an answer for the pyramids. We have an explanation for the pyramids. We have why they were built. Said, look at this. Whether you believe it or not, it's an explanation given. Take it hook, line, and sinker. We don't care. We've been dealing with this for years. It's intriguing, first off. And it gives us something better than nothing. The Bible gives you nothing concerning the pyramids. The greatest monuments, the greatest achievement the black man has ever built is not in your Bible. The greatest monument that the black man has ever built is not in the Bible. But it's in the Oahspe. Huh? Global Purpose, I see you. I see you, Global Purpose. Yeah, the greatest monument that the black man has ever built on the face of the planet is not in the Bible. So there go the pyramids. Now this is inside the pyramids. This is what it looks like, the shaft in the pyramids, right? So that's what we're dealing with right there, the pyramids. Now keep in mind, the Bible don't talk about the pyramids, but the Oahspe do. Let's go to it. Let's go to the pyramids. Let's go to the purpose. Well, what was the purpose of even building a pyramid? You know, there's many theories floating around, no doubt. But the Oahspe got a theory too. So now, this is during the time of Thutmose, I'll say around the Old Kingdom, this time period. So, the purpose of the pyramid, it was a question and answer segment that Thutmose and Osiris was having that caused the building of the pyramid. And here is a little bit of the dialogue leading to the purpose of the pyramid being built, right? So check it, let me see. This is in the book of Wars Against Jehovah, chapter 48. We'll start from verse 21. Osiris asked Thutmose, what was the greatest, best of all things? So Osiris is questioning him. What is the greatest and best of all things? That's the question he's raising. Thutmose said, there are but two things, corporeal, which is the physical, and spiritual. So Osiris raised the question, and Thutmose answered it. They playing an intellectual game here. Not a game, but they playing on it. They speaking on an intellectual level, a high level of spirituality. Because we're dealing with Osiris. Osiris is already an angel. He's a Lord God already. So he's a high-ranking, thinking person. Intellect out this world. And Thutmose is right there speaking to him. So Thutmose is being questioned by this highly intelligent being. And the question was what? Osiris asked Thutmose, what was the greatest, best of all things? Thutmose said, there are but two things, corporeal and spiritual. Verse 21, Osiris said, so he's throwing something else out there. He said, true. What then is wisdom? So he said, all right, you got that one. He said, now what is wisdom? That's the question Osiris threw at Thutmose. Thutmose said, to inquire great corporeal knowledge is the first place, in the first place, and in the second to acquire spiritual knowledge. But tell me, thou God of wisdom, how can a man attain to the highest spiritual knowledge? So he answered the question But then Thutmose asked him, well, how can you attain the highest spiritual knowledge? That's what he's asking. See, this is a Q&A segment that's going to lead into the pyramids being built. So Thutmose asked him. He says, but tell me thou, O God of wisdom, how can a man attain the highest spiritual knowledge? Verse 22, Osiris said, to come and dwell in heaven and see for one's self. See that? He's telling you, yo, if you want to know that, you got to come to heaven and see for oneself. So keep in mind, this is a highly intelligent God. So this ain't no wishful talking. They talking real talk. He said, yo, if you want to know that, you got to come see for oneself. Thutmose said, how long shall a man sojourn in heaven in order to learn its wisdom? So he like, all right, well, how long we got to be there? Osiris said, 1 day, 100 days, 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, according to the man. See, now with that answer, that shit would have raised a red flag for me. Because I'm like, nigga, ain't no way in hell a nigga living 1,000 years in spirit without dying. You see what I'm saying? I would have been like, all right, I hear you, but that's kind of red flag. You know what I mean? So right there, Osiris is playing off of Thutmose. Verse 23, Thutmose said, if one could leave the corporeal part for 100 days and travel in heaven for 100 days, would it profit him? So we said, yo, if I leave 100 days in spirit, like, would that profit me? Like, what would I gain from that? That's the question. Osiris said, he ain't even asked him, but this is what he didn't answer his question, but he said this instead. Osiris said, to do that is to master death. Huh? To do that is to master death. Behold, thou hast already attained to the power of the dormant state. So we said you already got to a state of dormancy in your meditation. He says to control the course of spirit, that is the next course. Meaning to control that shit and navigate in the spiritual world. That is the next course Thutmose got to learn in order to attain 100 days or 1 day or 2 days in the spiritual world. So this is Osiris' way of luring Thutmose in order to get him to agree to build a temple in order for him to go visit the lower heavens. So I'm summing up to you the purpose of the pyramids being built based off this conversation. So now, he said again, behold, thou has, so Osiris said to do that is to master death. So coming back to the question, he said if one could leave the corporeal part for 100 days and travel in heaven for 100 days, would it profit him? So he said, would it profit him? What would be the benefit of that? But you notice he didn't answer him that. He didn't say, if you do that, you know what I mean, you're going to be rewarded with this, that, and the third. He said, instead he said, Osiris said to do this is to master death. He didn't answer him. He said, well, to do that is to master death. That's not the answer he was looking for. He says, behold, thou has already attained the power of the dormant state. So he's telling you, like, yo, you already a power, you reached the power of deep meditation to the dormant state, where you could basically move, like you could be out of your corporeal body, but in spirit, right? But he says to control the course of spirit, that is the next step. So he didn't even answer his question. He's saying he reverted back to Thutmose, like, well, you already got to the dormant state, to control your spirit is the next step. So Thutmose probably be like, nigga, that ain't the question. That ain't the answer I was looking for. I asked, what is the benefit of me being 100 days in spirit? So that's the second red flag from Osiris. I would have been like, this shit ain't going right. You know what I mean? He ain't really answering my questions. Because Osiris is deceiving Thutmose for his own personal aggrandizement. That's what these false gods do. So now, where we at? Verse 24. Thutmose said, behold, O God, I have attained to the power of the dormant state, even as the magicians who submit to be buried for 90 days. Yet, and I go hence in spirit and see many things, but my soul is like a breath of wind. It goes at random. So here's Thutmose saying he can move in the spiritual world, but not under his control like that. Verse 25. Now that answer is what triggered Osiris to want to build a temple. So he's seeing that Thutmose can already move in spirit and hear and see in spirit. But he says, like what? He says, but my soul is like a breath of wind and goes at random. So he says he really has no control of the spirit when he's in the realm. So look what Osiris says. So he's like, all right, Osiris is like, all right, he's navigating in the spirit. He can do these things, but he's not really under control yet. So Osiris says what? Verse 25. Osiris said, provide thou me a temple, and I will come and teach thee. Osiris said, if you provide me a temple, I'm going to come and teach you how to do this shit. I'm going to show you how to control your spirit and navigate without you having to worry about being blown in the vortex without your will, or without your control. So Osiris says, what? Provide thou me a temple, and I will come and teach thee. Thutmoth said, how to keep the body so long that it be not damaged, that is the question. The magician who have been buried long and being dug up, resuscitated, find their bodies so damaged that they die soon after. So Thutmoth raising the question like, well, damn, if I do this, how long I got to be out there? Because, the magicians who dig themselves in the body for 30 days, when they come back, they resuscitate themselves and they die not too long after. So Thutmoth raising the question like, I don't want to do this shit and die now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, let me know what's going on here. That's how Thutmoth responding right here. So what? What did Osiris say now? Verse 26. Osiris said, thou shalt build a temple of astronomy and dedicate it unto Osiris, Savior of men and angels, God of heaven and earth. See that? Key point. Osiris said he is Savior of men and angels. Jesus Christ is Savior. Serapis was Savior. Serapis is a composite of Osiris, the Savior. You see where we're going with it? Let me get a picture of Osiris right quick to add to add to the story. So this Osiris. Let me get a good picture of him. Let me get Osiris. So nigga Osiris, this the head honcho behind what's going on here. So let's say Osiris was an aspect of nature. No, nigga, Osiris was a deity. We're not playing them games. So Osiris is the nigga behind the pyramids. So again, Osiris said, thou shalt build a temple of astronomy and dedicate it unto Osiris, Savior of men and angels, God of heaven and earth. And it shall be built square with the world, east and west and north and south. And the observing line shall be with the apex of the Hydan vortex, which lie in the medium line of the variation of the North Star. Verse 27. In the form of a pyramid shall thou build it. Measure for measure will I show thee every part. Will I show you every part. That's what Osiris is saying. Osiris is the mastermind behind the blueprint of the pyramid, because he said, I will show you, measure for measure, will I show thee every part. You know when you at a job and the master mason is doing the work, he know the blueprint and you like the assistant to help, but he really laying it out. He know what the hell really going on. You just know a little bit to help and assist, but he the one who know how to lay out the blueprint, the foundation, and build this shit up. That's Osiris. This is why this shit can't be duplicated, because this shit came from an extraterrestrial, angelical being, mind state. This ain't come from the mind of man. The blueprint came from the angel, Osiris. As stated again, Osiris said, thou shalt build a temple of astronomy and dedicate it unto Osiris, Savior of men and angels, God of heaven and earth. And it shall be built square with the world, east, west, north, and south. And the observing line, that's why I showed the inner temple. That's why I showed the blueprint inside of it. Because these are windows where they observe the sky. And it states what? And the observing line shall be with the apex of the Hydan vortex, which lies in the medium line of the variation of the North Star. Verse 27. In the form of a pyramid shall thou build it, measure for measure will I show thee every part. See that? Verse 28. It don't end there. He says, and thou shalt provide such thickness of walls that no sound, nor heat, nor cold can enter therein. See that? That's why the pyramid walls are so thick and so big, these massive ass stones, because the purpose of it was to allow no sound, no heat, nor cold can enter therein. And yet thou shalt provide chambers within, suitable for thyself and for thy chiefs and thy friends who are adepts. For I will also provide the earth unto heaven, and heaven unto the earth. As above, so below as above. See, we ain't making this shit up. They laying it down here. And you already know that the pyramid is lined up with the Orion belt. So that's what he's laying out. That's when he says, for I have provided unto heaven and heaven unto the earth, that's what he's referring to. And my angels shall come and dwell for a season on the earth, and my earthborn shall go and dwell for a season in heaven. Yeah, they shall come to me on my throne, and behold the glories I have prepared for them. See that? So Osiris is building this pyramid for you to experience an out-of-body experience, astral projection into the lower heavens, to see him on his throne in this heavenly kingdom. And then when you come back to earth, you can tell everybody what you've seen in spirit. This is the purpose of the pyramid. So Thutmose had a conversation with Osiris about spirituality, moving in spirit, astral projection, some people call it. And Osiris was like, you know what? If you really want to learn, let me show you how it was done. Build me a temple, and I'm gonna show you. You're gonna build it, but I'm gonna show you measure for measure how it was built, and then you could duplicate the blueprint, and you and your people could do it in generations to come or whatever, right? So it's showing you. Verse 29. Nor shall my temple be exclusive, but open unto all who will pursue the philosophy of earth and heaven. For which reason thou shalt build it with the sun, moon, and stars, and it shall be a testimony unto the nations of the earth that thou art the highest of all mortals, and first founder of everlasting life in the flesh. See that? See that? See the everlasting life in the flesh concept? The gods used to be like that. Man can't die. Some Rastaman, your man not dead, me not dead, me not dealing with death. They think they're everlasting, they everlastingly live. Nah, yo. You're going to die in that fleshly body. But this was the deception Osiris was using at the time for his grand scheme of things. See that? So again it states, for which reason thou shalt build it with the sun, moon, and stars, and it shall be a testimony unto the nations of the earth that thou art the highest of all mortals, and the first founder of everlasting life in the flesh. For as the angels of heaven can return to the earth and take upon themselves corporeal bodies for a season, so shalt thou master thy own flesh to keep it as thou wilt. For this is the end and glory for which I created man on earth. He's deceiving Thutmose to think that it's going to be everlasting life in the flesh. And Thutmose believed it. Thutmose believed Osiris' deception that man will be forever in the flesh. That was his deception. That's the end game right there. The end game, it says, for this is the end and glory for which I created man on earth. That's the deception Osiris was using Thutmose for, to build the temple of astronomy, to build the pyramids, to subjugate his mortal slaves, to populate his heavenly kingdom. That's what the purpose of the pyramids was for. Then once the pyramids was built, in verse 18, 49, chapter 49, it says, for 24 years was Thutmose building the temple, and it was complete, but it required another half a year to take away the inclined plane used in building it. After that, it stood free and clear, the greatest building that had ever been built on the earth or ever will be. The Oahspe is giving the black man credit for building the greatest monument that ever existed on the planet. But you don't have that in your goddamn Bible. The Bible don't even mention the goddamn pyramids, when in the Oahspe, it just rendered up that the greatest monument ever built and ever will be built was the pyramids, and we know that niggas built that shit. Bible don't talk about that. Bible don't talk about that. See that? Bible don't talk about that, beloved. You dig? Yes, family. Stephen Spiritual Light, I see you. We back on your done. No Kids E-Rock was popping. What it do? Shebrew back in the building. Yeah, we're 47. That's what's up. Child of the One, I see you. Peace and blessings, family. Creator gang, 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 gang. Already, family. So yeah, so we just showed and proved that the pyramids is in the Oahspe. It renders up the purpose of the pyramids. You know what I mean? The scheme of Osiris. The shit run deep. Now the Egyptians niggas ain't gonna like that, of course. Oh, you know, that's pseudo, and you know, Osiris wasn't a real person, and this, that, and the third. I'm like, yeah, whatever, nigga. Give me a better revelation. Give me something better than. Instead of me telling me that Osiris was the god of the underworld with the vague statement like that, give me something else. Give me something detailed that we could go off of. You dig? That's what we're dealing with, family. Let's pull up the music, yo. Let's vibe for a minute, yo. Create a gang, gang. Yes, family. It's a vibes. I mean, quickly touched on that subject with the pyramids. Quick little lesson. Nothing major. But just showing you that the Oahspe shows you that it just got the pyramid, like in the Bible it says that the Israelites built treasure houses for Ramses. Like, what was the purpose? For what? See, the Oahspe gives us the for what, and gives us the purpose of the pyramids. It's not like the Oahspe said, and man was inspired to build the pyramids and that's it. No, the Oahspe showing you that this shit was built for this particular reason. Osiris said, I'm going to show you, measure for measure, I'm going to show you. You see what I'm saying? When ancient aliens try to say, oh, extraterrestrials built the pyramids, now they're not too far off now. It wasn't extraterrestrials, it was a nigga named Osiris the False. Chili Mum. Sound like an Asian nigga. Let me find out, goddamn Osiris, an Asian nigga. He was an Asian nigga when he was a corporeal man. Let me find out. It's a vibes. Eliyahu, Yeremiyahu, what's good to see you, family. We just vibing out now, yo. 11:41. We just vibing out. Survives. The Nephilims in the Pyramids of the Apocalypse was a good read on this and is in with line with the Oahspe teachers. True indeed. dizzle. It gets dizzle over here. You dig? It's a vibes. And see, and another thing was that the purpose of the pyramids was for, like I said, Thutmose had the conversation with Osiris about spirituality, or what a lot of people call astral projection, where you're moving in spirit. And Thutmose had a problem with navigating the spirit. He could tap in, but then he says, like the wind, he moves at random, so he ain't got control. So Osiris said, all right, let me show you how to master that. Build me a temple, and I'm going to show you how to build it. And then once the temple is built, I'm going to show you how to do it. So after the temple was built, in verse 50 it states, when the temple was complete, and the king and his 4 high priests entered into the holy chamber, the false Osiris, through his servant god Egypt, came in Sargos and spoke unto the king, saying, here I am, O king. So they furthering giving you the deception now. Hold on, let me pull them pyramids back out. I didn't know I was going to touch back on it. But the spirit just moved the Hydran to do these things, yeah? So I'm going to show you the inside of the pyramids now. That's where we at now. So now the pyramids is built. So now we on the inside. So we on the inside of the pyramid now. So after the pyramids is built, what did the verse say? What did the verse say? It says, when the temple was complete, the king and his 4 high priests entered into the holy chamber. The holy chamber more likely was the king's chamber, right? Or if not the king's chamber, one of them chambers inside the pyramid, they in there. It says, the false Osiris through his servant god Egypt came in Sargos and spoke unto the king, saying, here I am, here am I, O king. Verse 2, Thutmose said, my labor is well recompensed. That thou hast come to me, O Lord my God, I am blessed. Osiris said, keep holy my chambers. Suffer no man, nor woman, nor child that dwell on the face of the earth to know the mysteries of these my holies, accept and expect my adepts. That sound damn near biblical right there. My holy chambers, you know what I mean? That sound biblical. And then when it states, to know the mysteries of these, my holies, that sound biblical. Here lies the keys of everlasting life, nigga, that sound biblical. You see that? So when people say a lot of these concepts came out of Kemet, here you see how. From the Oahspe is even showing you. Verse 3, Thutmose said, how says thou, the key of everlasting life? Osiris said, herein is that which is of good and evil, as I commanded thy forefathers to eat, whereof man shall become as gods, and live forever. See that? Because you remember, Osiris is the one who coined the story of eating the fruit and all that in the Garden of Eden. Osiris coined that. But this is the preliminaries before the Hebrews had it. So it says, as I commanded thy forefathers to eat, whereof man shall become as gods, meaning the tree of life, and man shall know good and evil, becoming like one of us. That's what he's referring to. And then he says, and live forever. For this is the triumph of man over death, even for which I created him on the earth. So again, Osiris is deceiving Thutmose, telling him that he created man. He lying. Thutmose said, shall only we 5 know these things? So they built this big ass pyramid, and there's only 5 niggas in this here. So Thutmose like, damn, this big ass pyramid. He said, yo, shall only we 5 know these things? Osiris says, nah, really. Verily, else the light of my kingdom would not be full. Behold thou how I built the temple. Was it not in the keeping of adepts? So then, as I have given unto thee to know my kingdoms, thou shalt give unto others, not suffering these lights to come except through my commandments. So he's telling him, yeah, other people gonna notice, but they gotta be on these levels. They gotta be trained up. So when they talk about in ancient Egypt, they had to learn in the mystery schools. It was 40 years. Yeah, you had to learn for a long time before you could come into these higher realms. Verse 5. Now in the 2nd month after the temple was complete, Thutmose, the king, having put the affairs of his kingdom in order, went into the holy chamber, and thence ascended into the chamber of life and death. So the holy chamber is one chamber, and then ascended. He went up further. So if he was in one chamber, he went up to another chamber, ascended into the chamber of life and death, leaving the 4 chief priests in the holy chamber. And Thutmose cast himself in dormancy, which is death, it states. Dormancy, by swallowing his tongue. Whereupon the priest closed the entrance of the seal and sealed the king within. So niggas want to talk about spooky shit. This the spooky shit that these niggas was doing in the pyramid, yo. Ain't no way in hell you gonna get me to swallow my goddamn tongue just to prove some shit and some spiritual shit. It's not going down. Jehovah ain't commanding niggas to swallow their tongue. But Thutmose is being used by Osiris for these acts. So what did the verse say again? And Thutmose cast himself into dormancy, death, by swallowing his tongue. Whereupon the priest closed the entrance and sealed the king within. Osiris, through his servant god Egypt, said unto the priests, one alone shall remain in quarter watch. Shall ye dwell within the holy chamber, and I will remain also. And the priests cast lots and divided the watch in 6 hours each unto every day. And Osiris sent Baal to the spirit of Thutmose. Now Thutmose is in the holy chamber, swallowed his tongue. Now he's astral projected, meaning his spirit has come out his body. And now that his spirit has come out his body, he's in the spiritual world. He done tapped in. He's outside of visible light, so he's in spirit. And then what happens? Who come and assist him in spirit? What did it say? It states, and Osiris sent Baal. You remember when I told y'all that Osiris and Baal were homies? They were still cool right here. Let me go to Osiris. Let's go to the gods. See that? They go Osiris sitting on the throne, and they go Baal. They go Baal. What did the verse say? What did the verse say? It stated what? Osiris, through his servant god Egypt, said unto the priests, one alone shall remain in quarter watch. Shall ye dwell within the holy chambers, and I will remain also. And the priests cast lots and divided the watch in 6 hours each unto every day. And Osiris sent Baal to the spirit of Thutmose, and took him to Ago-Adin, Osiris' heavenly place. This is Osiris' heavenly place, the judgment hall of Ma'at. Let's get that. Boom. Right there. Let's move Baal out the way. Boom. That's a depiction of the heavenly place of Osiris. That's supposed to be Osiris in the afterlife. That's supposed to be the field of Rush, the fields of reed, where Osiris is dwelling. The field of Rush and the field of reed is the equivalent of paradise in the Christian concept. This is the afterlife proceeding. This is a proceeding in order for you to become one with Osiris in his kingdom. And what did the verse state here? And Osiris sent Baal to the spirit of Thutmose, and took him to Ago-Adin, Osiris' heavenly place, showing unto the spirit the glory of the throne, saying, behold the God of gods. Thutmose said, it is a great glory. Lo, my eyes are blinded by the light of the Lord my God. After this, Baal took the soul of Thutmose into the 1,000 heavenly places in Osiris' kingdom, and showed him the glories thereof. See that? See what's going on? So just imagine that dude right there is Thutmose, just hypothetically speaking. And he's being taken into the heavenly realms. You see Osiris sitting on the throne. He see him sitting on the throne. Just what the verse said. It says, Thutmose took him to Ago-Adin, Osiris' heavenly place, showing unto the spirit of the glory of the throne. Osiris is sitting on a square. That's his throne. See that? This is the depiction. Look at Haru pointing at Osiris like, look, see? There he go. Look at Hanifa. Hanifa like, oh, that's Osiris? Oh, that's him right there? Oh, okay. Oh, but Haru is pointing like, look, there you go. That's the big homie right there sitting on the throne. That's the God of gods. What did the Oahspe say? And Osiris sent Baal to the spirit of Thutmose, and took him to Ago-Adim, Osiris' heavenly place, showing unto the spirit the glory of the throne, saying, behold the God of gods. Thutmose said, it is a great glory, loud. So that's like the dude, that's like Haru pointing the finger at the dude looking and saying to Osiris, like, it is a great glory. Lo, my eyes are blinded by the light of the Lord my God. After this, Baal took the soul of Thutmose into 1,000 heavenly places in Osiris' kingdom, and showed him the glory thereof. Thutmose said unto Baal, thou angel of God, thou hast shown me of a truth, God is in the image of man. See that? See that? The dude looking at Osiris like, yo, you show me of a truth. Yo, God is a man. The creator is a man. Further deceiving Thutmose. Further deceiving Thutmose. Thutmose said unto Baal. Thutmose said unto this guy. Thutmose said to this guy. So now, so that's Thutmose. So let's say the guy in the white is yo, this shit is hilarious. So they go Baal. So that's Baal talking. And say the guy behind him in the white garment, say that's Thutmose. So we're going to play this shit out. So that's Thutmose. These niggas having a conversation. So that's him in spirit. He done made it to the heavenly kingdom of Osiris. And he says, Thutmose said unto Baal. So they go Baal, they go Thutmose, they talking. The angel of God thou hast shown me of a truth. God is in the image of man. Nor is there any but one God who ruleth over all. So that's what Thutmose said to Baal. So Baal said, how sayest thou then? Who is God? Thutmose said, how sayest thou? For behold, his glory was so great I could not look upon him. Then answered Baal, saying, only angels and mortals. So Baal got a little offended, like, hold up, we'll say what? Hold up, bro, like, I know he the God, but you putting him above me. I'm a God too. Like, that's how Baal started feeling. So Baal was like, because you could tell in the conversation. So let's go back. So when Thutmose said unto Baal, thou angel of God. So he says, you the angel of God. He's telling Baal that. Thou shown me of a truth, God is in the image of man. Nor is there any but one God who ruleth over all. So Thutmose saying to Baal, yo, you the angel, but that's the nigga right there. That's the Most High. He the ruler over all. So after Baal heard that, he like, hold up. Baal said, how sayest thou? He like, hold up, little nigga. What you mean? Who is God? Thutmose said, how sayest thou? Like, what you mean? He right there. For behold, his glory was so great I couldn't look upon him. That's what Thutmose said. And then Baal is like, yo, hold up. Only angels and mortals. These are the sum of all things. So now Baal trying to throw his wisdom in there and his craftiness because he felt offended by Thutmose bigging up Osiris on that level. See that? So then Baal answered, saying, only angels and mortals. These are the sum of all things. He thou hast looked upon was even. So he's saying the Osiris you just looked upon, he was as though are a one-time mortal on a far-off star world. He attained to the Godhead to create a world unto himself, even as thou, who are an adept, can create flowers and plants and serpents. Thus he came into the void region of space and created the earth and her heavens, and they belong unto him, for they are his. And in like manner is every star world created and ruled by a God like unto thy God, who is Lord over all. So right there, Baal leveled the playing ground. He said, ho, don't put that nigga upon a high pedestal like that. Men and angels are the sum totality of creation. He says the same way he's a God, you're going to become one. You're already an adept, and once you develop, you're going to become like gods, who is Lord over all or whatever. So Thutmose said, oh, that all people knew these things. Oh, that I may remember them when I am returned to the earth. Baal said, more than this shalt thou remember. For I will now take thee to the hells of the adulterers of the Jehovians. Baal then took the soul of Thutmose to the hells of Dias, and showed him the horrors thereof. But he took him not to the region of God, true God, in Cryoshiva. Because if he would have took him there, the game would have been over. He would have been exposed. He would have been exposed if he would have took him to the regions of true God. But he took him to the regions of the hells of Dias, saying that these are the Jehovians, these are the ones who worship the Creator, these are their conditions, furthering his belief from the Creator by using such a tactic. See, these false gods are deceptive, and the Oahspe shows you how deep the deception goes with these goddamn spirits. That's why we so locked in and believe in these false gods for so long, because these false gods did a level of work that still is affecting us 6,000 years later. Doing these heinous acts. Got niggas swallowing their tongue so they can go visit the spirit world, only to look on the God, only to see God on the throne and ask him to come back and tell people, yo, I see God on the throne. I damn near nearly died because I had to swallow my tongue to do it, but I seen God. Fuck out of here with that, yo. You're not playing them games. You're not playing them games, yo. You dig? So that's our vibes. So Oahspe gives you some insight of the purpose of the pyramids, why they built the pyramids, what the hell they was doing inside the pyramids, what the intentions of the pyramids was for. See that? So the deception of Osiris for building the pyramids, he deceived Thutmose that he would have everlasting life in the flesh. Thutmose believed it. Thutmose was taken to the heavenly kingdoms of Osiris. He seen Osiris, he said, for a truth, God is in the image of man. He believed it. You see what I'm saying? So when he came back to earth, to write down documents and shit like that, he gonna write down that this God Osiris is the Most High. He's the true and living. Not knowing he was deceived the whole damn time. And to show you that he was deceived, when he died, it shows you what they did to his spirit after he died. After Osiris used Thutmose, and after Thutmose died, this is what they did to Thutmose. So check it. In verse 30, 39, chapter 40, verse 39 in the Book of Wars Against Jehovah, it says, nevertheless, with all Thutmose's wisdom and the wisdom of his gods, he fell on a stone and died suddenly. One day, he was 100 years old. So he was 100 years old when Thutmose died. Now, verse 41 states, I think it's 51, one of the two, but verse 41 states, then Thutmose was quite dead. The priest carried his body into the temple, fully believing his spirit would return from heaven and transfer the body from corruptible into incorruptible flesh to live forever. See that? They think it's some Jesus shit about to go down. Like the nigga gonna die in 3 days, he gonna wake up in his physical flesh and move around. Nah, see, these concepts were started back then. So the whole idea that Jesus resurrected in his physical body, this shit started here. And the effects is shown throughout Christianity because the influence started with Osiris. Because you remember Osiris, then came Serapis with the Greeks, Greek, Latin, and English, then you got your Christianity, all stemming from the concept of a savior. And the savior is Osiris. So now, check it. It states, and they laid the corpse in the place previously designated by the gods and sealed it up accordingly to the commandments of the false Osiris, savior of men. Osiris has said, whoso believes in me, him will I save unto everlasting life. And though he lose his body, yet again shall he find it. That's scriptures. That's biblical. Huh? And the corruptible flesh shall be changed in the twinkle of an eye. That's New Testament talk. And become incorruptible unto life everlasting, with the spirit that abide therein. See, this shit come out of Egypt. These concepts come out of Egypt. These theologies come out of Egypt that you find in Christianity. Verse 3. On the 5th day the priest opened the chamber, for accordingly to the laws of miracles, on that day the spirit should accomplish the feat. But lo and behold, it came not. The body still laid cold and dead. But the gods came in Sargos and said unto the priest, seal up the body for another 5 days. And the priest did as commanded. And after that they examined it again, but life had not returned. And again they were commanded to seal up for another 5 days, which they did, but life returned not. So the angels is over there lying to these niggas. These priests thinking that the spirit gonna come back to the body, so the angels coming back. All right, leave it another 5 days, and we gonna come back and see 5 days come. All right, well, leave it another 5. These the angels talking. They're not even decisive on what the hell they doing. And the priest should be. That should have been another red flag for the priest. Like, all right, these niggas, angels and shit. These niggas is gods. They should be more knowing what the fuck going on with this shit. So that should would have raised the question. But let me skip down to the spirit of thutmoth. What happened to him? What did they did? So check it. Now, when we scoot down to verse 7, it states, check this. As to the spirit of thutmoth, at the time of death, because keep in mind, he said at the time of death. What was the time of his death right here? Nevertheless, with all thutmoth's wisdom and the wisdom of his gods, he fell on a stone and died suddenly on the day he was 100 years old. He died on his birthday suddenly. Keep that in mind. Suddenly, right? He died suddenly. And what did it state here? As to the spirit of thutmoth, at the time of death, it was taken to Ago-Adin and put amongst the servants of Osiris' heavenly kingdom, and thus enslaved. The nigga who built the pyramids was enslaved after his physical death. Put among the other slaves in Osiris' heavenly kingdom. Beaten like a Hebrew slave. Grab them logs and stones, nigga. That's what happened to the spirit of thutmoth after he died. He became a subservient slave to the false god whom he such believed in while he was on earth. Now he's a slave now, so once he crossed over in spirit, he's among other slaves. You ain't special no more up here. You a slave among billions upon millions of angels. And keep in mind, those are the same angels that rose up against Osiris once they found out that he wasn't who he said he was. Because keep in mind, he told Thutmose them niggas he the creator, he created everything. But once they find out, once all these billions of angels in this kingdom find out that he ain't who he said he was, then his own people gonna turn on him. Then anarchy and hell is gonna reign in the false god Osiris' kingdom. And he's gonna be cast into hell and cast in a knot. And he's gonna need to be delivered by the followers of the creator. See that? Oahspe shows you these things, yo. The false Osiris is one of the Elohims. Exactly, Cal P. He's one of the scribes that wrote the story, and his story came out best out of the other scribes of Sudga and Tian. Shit, Osiris is the one who gave you the Anunnakis. He gave you that. Enki and Lil, Osiris gave you that. Enki and Lil Ninkarshak, them ain't real people. That's an allegory story created by Anu Hassaj, coined by Osiris. He put the touches on that shit. Modified that shit, switched it up a little, made it sound good, made it look good. Osiris did that. So flesh has never been raised from the dead, my question. Nope, 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 nope. Once the physical body is dead, it's out of here. See, what happens is that, now, let me go to the story of China real quick, because in the story of the prophet China appeared after his death. But he didn't rise in the corporeal part. He rose spiritually, but he used, by the power of will, by the power of his own will, he clothed himself with the particles of atmosphere, and he appeared in the semblance of mortals. The same way when you read in the book, like, for example, before I go to the book of the prophet China, when he appeared after his death, just like how they say Jesus rose in from the dead, Jesus didn't rise and come back in his corporeal body. He rose and he formed semblance in the corporeal body. Let me give you an example. Because you can incarnate after you die. You don't reincarnate. You can incarnate, meaning to say, like if I die and my flesh is on the ground, I can show my spirit incarnated as this body right here, although my corpse is on the ground. That's incarnation. And you do that by the power of will, by your own power, you gather up corporeal entities of things and make a corporeal body. Now, for example, right? When the angels took on flesh, it gives you an example of that right here. In verse 16, in the book of Jehovah, chapter 6, verse 16, it states, "And now the earth in the later days of the earth was in the later days of Simu, and the angels could take on corporeal bodies for themselves. Out of the elements of the earth clothe they themselves by force of their own wills. That's the key right there. By force of their own wills, with flesh and bones. So, but what did they use? It says out of the elements of the earth. What are the elements? The minerals. It says clothe they themselves by the force of their own wills. So by the force of your own will after death, you can use the elements and clothe yourself in appearance semblance of a corporeal body. And I'm going to give you an example with that in the story of China the prophet. After his death, he appeared in semblance of a corporeal body, and no man knew that he passed through death. I was like, damn, that's cold-blooded. The prophet China, cold-blooded. Let me get that real quick. Let me get that. The story of prophet China, cold-blooded. We sleep on the prophet China, yo. He got one of the coldest stories in the Oahspe too. That shows a lot of the spirit, like the spiritual level, the spirituality in the story of China is crazy. But let me show you in China where he basically materialized by the force of his own will after his death. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Alright, so check it, right? And China told the people what was going to befall him and his death prior to his death as a testimony that he ain't making up this shit. You know what I mean? He was sent from the Creator to do what he had to do. So now, let me see. So I just read for you that the angels use by the force of their own will is how you do these things. So if you want to materialize after you die, it's by the force of your own will. But you got to be, it takes a lot to do that. I ain't no shit. If niggas could do that, niggas be appearing all throughout the goddamn planet, appearing in spirit. But that's some shit, that's something you just can't pull off like that. So check it. So we're going to talk about this when the prophet China dies. Alright, so check it. This is the prophecy of his death he's talking about. So this is in the book of the Ark of Bond, chapter 30. We're going to start from verse, we're going to start from verse 4. And while he was yet up in the air, he said unto the multitude, I will now come down amongst you and die, as all men do die. And ye shall suffer my body to lie 5 days, that the eye may be sunken in black, showing that I am dead of a truth. Verse 5. And on the 6th day ye shall cast the body into the furnace, and burn it to ashes. And the ashes ye shall take into the field, and scatter this way and that way, that no more of me is seen or known on the earth. Verse 6. And on the seventh day, the Sabbath day, on the 7th day, which shall be a holy day unto you, behold, you shall witness in the field of my ashes a whirlwind. And the whirlwind, which is a vortex, shall gather up the ashes of my body, and my soul shall inhabit it and make it whole, as ye now see me. And I will break the whirlwind and descend down to the earth and abide with you yet other 7 days. And then ye shall behold a ship descend from heaven in an exceeding great light, and I will enter therein and ascend to the second heaven. This is what the nigga telling his people what's going to transpire with him. This is the prophecy he's telling his people. He says, yo, when I die, leave my body for 5 days so you can see that I'm dead of a truth. Then after that, take my body, put it in the furnace and burn it. Take the ashes into the forests and scatter it in the four winds. And then from there, I'm going to come and create a vortex by the force of their own will. Coming back to here. It says here. It says what? What did the Oahspe say? By the force of their wills with flesh and blood. Now let me come back. It says, out of the elements of the earth clothe they themselves by force of their will with flesh and bone. Out of the elements of the earth. What in this case is the elements? His ashes. So out of the ashes, he's going to clothe himself by the force of his own will with flesh and blood as a semblance. So he's telling you this on the seventh day, this is going to happen. He says, I will break the whirlwind and descend down to the earth and abide with you yet other 7 days. And then ye shall behold a ship descend from heaven in an exceeding great light, and I will enter therein and ascend to the second heaven. Verse 7. Neither shall any man or woman nor child say, Behold, China was a god, nor shall ye build an image of me, nor monuments, nor in any way to do more unto me for my memory than to the means of mortals. For I say unto you, I am but a man who hath put away earth possessions and desire and aspirations. And verse 8, and whatsoever ye see me do, or know of me having done, the same is possible unto all men and women created alive on earth. Verse 9, remembering that all things are possible with Jehovah, in parentheses, Oahspe, and to him only is due all honor and glory forever. Verse 10, so check it. So China died and was burnt to ashes on the 6th day, and under the superintendence of King Tizu, the ashes were scattered in the field as commanded. Verse 11. And on the seventh day, while the multitude surrounded all the place, a whirlwind came and gathered up the ashes in a small degree, and the ashes were illuminated, and the soul of China went therein, and he burst the whirlwind and came down even at the king's feet. See that? China said, know thou who I am? Can you imagine that shit? Nigga told you how he gonna die. He done died, burnt his ashes, and on this particular day, he said, yo, I'm gonna do this event. He says, what? On the 7th day, while the multitude surrounded the place, a whirlwind came and gathered up the ashes. A whirlwind came and gathered up the ashes. In the Oahspe states, what? Out of the elements of the earth clothed they themselves by force of their wills with flesh and bones. That's the exact same thing China did in this instance right here, where it states, so China died. No, it said on the 7th day, while the multitude surrounded all the place, a whirlwind came and gathered up the ashes in a small degree. The whirlwind was the power and force of the will of China producing that. And then he says, and the ashes were illumined. They were lightened. And the soul of China went therein, and he burst the whirlwind and came down even at the king's feet. And China says, know thou who I am? And the king answered, saying, of a truth, thou art China. Like, what the fuck happened here? This nigga done died through his ashes, and now he's standing before us after he died. And he asked me, you know who I am? I'm like, hell yeah, I know who you is, nigga. You China. How the hell you do that? That's what the king response is like. And the king answered, saying, of a truth, thou art China. And because this hath come to pass, I decree that this, thy native land, shall henceforth forever be called China. You ain't know that China was a prophet. The land of China was a nigga named China. And the story of him is in the Oahspe. See that? Niggas ain't know that. We're not just dealing with no damn Abrahamic tradition. We're dealing with a global concept of religion, cultures, and things of that nature with the Oahspe. We're not just in one corner. We all over the place. So we said he's going to name the land after him, and the land was called China. And he says, I decree that this, thy native land, shall henceforth forever be called China. And I will send unto other kings also, and they will decree the same thing. Verse 13, China said, even so do thou, and since the Father hath allotted me 7 days to remain with his chosen, and with thee, O king, apprise thou whom I will name to thee to come and see me. And thereupon China told the king whom he desired to come. Verse 14, and China walked about on the earth, even the same as he before death, nor could any man tell by looking at him that he passed through death. See that? This nigga walking among the people not know, yo, this shit is crazy. This is the spooky hour. So just imagine. This is like the story of Jesus. When Jesus died and he rose from the dead, he ain't rising his physical body. The elements of the earth, by force of his will, compressed and condensed and created a semblance of the physical body due to the force of spirit or due to the force of will, and walked amongst men. When Jesus seen them niggas, he said, yo, what's good? They're like, who this dude? They realize, oh shit, it's the Messiah. Oh, this nigga resurrected. Oh, you really here? You know what I mean? Same thing with China. China went through death. It said what? He walked among the people 7 days and no man could tell he passed through death. I said, look at that. It says, and China walked about on the earth, even the same as before death. Nor could any man tell by looking at him that he passed through death. Nor were his clothes different, although they were made out of the ashes in the whirlwind. Huh? Nigga. Stop. That's like me, goddamn, coming back in spirit, and the ashes I produced through the force of will is the material. Yo, this is what's going on. This is the spiritual degrees that's going on in the Oahspe. When you want to talk about the resurrection, this is the resurrection. This is what you call incarnation. By the force of will, you can incarnate by the elements of the earth, clothe thyself with a corporeal semblance. And he said he walked among the people 7 days, and they didn't know he passed through death. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if a king killed China, or you beefing with somebody, you kill him, and the next thing you know he dead, and a couple days, a week later, you see this nigga walking around, and then he lock eyes with you? The nigga you killed, know he dead. Went to the funeral, seen him go down in the grave, he out of here. And then 7 days later, you see this nigga walking among the streets talking to people, and then he look at you and lock eyes with you. Come on, man, you'll have a heart attack on sight. Have a heart attack on sight. That's why Jehovah say, thou shalt not murder and kill. Just imagine a nigga do that, materialize and see your ass and come for your ass. Yo, this shit run deep, yo. Yeah, yo, this shit run deep, King. Yeah. But the point of showing this is the power that the prophet had after death to show itself. So when we resurrect after death, we're not resurrecting back in our corporeal bodies. By the force of will, using the elements of the earth, the evaporated corporeal entities of things, like the books say, is how you could do these things. You know what I mean? Shit deep, yo. Deep waters. Yeah, son. Facts, Malachi. Facts. This shit is deep. You know what I mean? Oh, Deshaun, what's good? I see you, sis. Yeah, his body was dead. Then they told him to burn it. Then they took the ashes and scattered in the four winds. And then they used the vortex. See, the vortex is the power and force. So the vortex was created. He burst the spirit in the vortex and bam, there he go. Walking around men. 7 more days. I said, this shit is crazy, yo. This shit is crazy, but it ain't too far-fetched. It says, and China walked about the earth, even the same as before death, nor could any man tell by looking at him that he passed through death. Nor was his clothes different, although they were made out of the ashes in the whirlwind. On the last day that he was to remain, he called Tizu, and the person he had selected, and thus spoke unto them, saying, and then he give a little speech or whatever. And then he ascends up into the heavens, and he descends in the ship. The same way they talk about Yahshua in Acts, he was taken up into a cloud and was seen no more. The same way China was taken up into a cloud and seen no more. The same way Zarathustra, some of these other prophets. The same way Brahma. These certain prophets, the angels took them up in they atmospheric ships. See that? The harvest. A lot of times, the harvest times is during the prophets. When Zarathustra came, that was the harvest time. That was the beginning of an arc cycle. And within the sub-arcles, their harvest times. So Yahshua was a harvest time. Even in the book, it says that the spirits of the dead walked in the cities of Jerusalem in the Bible. Nobody talk about that. What verse is that, family? In the Bible, where it talks about when Jesus rose, the spirits of the dead walked among the people. Where verse is that? Because that's the harvest. Them people rose up. They moving up in the graves. The Bible ain't gonna tell you that though, although they speak on it, but they can't elaborate. What verse is that? I know it's in Matthew somewhere. We're talking about when Jesus rose, that the spirits and the people was walking in Jerusalem. Let me see if I can pull that up on Google real quick. Let me see. All right, Matthew's 27:53. Let me see. Matthew's 27:53. Boom, went straight to Matthew. See that? First, open the book into Matthew. See that? That's that spiritual shit. That's how them Israelites be. See, the Lord, the Lord put us right where we needed to be. The Lord. Fuck out of here, nigga. Creator gang. Nigga, we ain't rocking with no lords. We respect the lords. We respect them. Hold up, Matthew's 20. Yeah, hold on. Oh, we in Mark. I'm like, oh, they ain't even got no goddamn Matthew's 27. All right, Matthew's 27. Matthew's 27:53. Let me see if that's it. I could have known. Malachi Maccabee. I could have known. And it's crazy. When I threw it out there, you were the first person I had in mind that'll probably come with the chapter and verse. All right, so it's Matthew's 27. All right, I'm going to start from 51. And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twine from the top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks rent, and the graves were open, and many bodies of the saints which slept rose. Rose mean resurrect, rise, ascend, and came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city, and appeared unto many. Ain't nobody talk about that. And now was the centurion, and they that were with him, watching Jesus, saw the earthquake, and those things that were done, they feared greatly, saying, truly, this was the Son of God. But coming back to that verse where it talks about, and came out the graves, although we know that spirits ain't rocking in no graves, but this is basically talking about an ascension. Because first it states, the veil of the temple was rent, in verse 52, and the graves were open, and many bodies of the saints which slept rose. So arose means ascend, means to rise. So even if they was in a darkened state, they arise. See, the harvest is elevation. So if you a drudge and the harvest coming and you get situated, you'll be initiated in the rites and ceremonies in the first resurrection during your harvest time. The next harvest time, if you manage that, you'll ascend into the second resurrection. So for each harvest, it's an elevation into the next grade depending on where you at. So if you in the 7th grade, when graduation come, nigga, you go into the 8th grade. But your men's in them may be in the 10th, going into the 11th grade. So these angels right here is coming out the grave, so they in grade 1. Oahspe already described that grade 1 is of the earth. So what of them? They're arising from grade 1 to a higher plateau. Although the Bible don't explain that, but we have the understanding from the Oahspe dealing with these harvest times, times of ascension, times to rise, with the spirits of the lower realm, the spirits of darkness, the drudges, spirits of darkness. They said the grave shallow, that's darkness. So the spirits dwelling in darkness are now rising. And then it stated what? It says, and came out the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city and appeared unto many. Now it's talking about these angels appearing unto many. Now to validate that with the Oahspe, right? When the Oahspe talks about that in chapter 7, where it states, Jehovah said, let a sign be given to the inhabitants of the earth, that they may comprehend Dani in the firmament. For even as I bequeathed to the earth a time for creating the living, and a time for angels to come and partake of the first fruit of mortality and immortality, so shall man at certain times and seasons receive testimonies from my host in heaven. See that? Let me see. Let me see there. And then the harvest times, well, I always read that verse when we talk about where the Etherians come down to collect. But that's during the third resurrection. But there's other resurrections pertaining to the lower resurrections coming up. That's Rizal. Verse 4 states, and Jehovah gave this sign to man on earth, which is to say, in the beginning of the light of Dani, meaning the beginning of a 3,000-year period, the spirits of the newly dead shall have power to take upon themselves the semblance of corporeal bodies and appear and talk face to face with mortals. Every 3,000 years, Jehovah gave this sign on earth, that those who learn the power and capacity of such familiar spirits might bear testimony in regard to the origin of man on earth. So right here it said at the beginning of every 3,000 years, and within the subcycles of 3,000 years too. That's the deep understanding. It stated that in the beginning of the light of Dani, or at the beginning of 3,000 years, the spirits of the newly dead shall have power to take upon themselves the semblance of corporeal bodies and appear and talk face to face with mortals. What did it say right here in Matthew 51? And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twine from the top and bottom, and the earth did quake to and fro. Verse 52. And the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose. And there came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city, and appeared unto many. Just what the Oahspe was saying as far as this time period. Jehovah gave this sign to man on earth, which is to say, in the beginning of the light of Dani, the spirits of the newly dead shall have power to take up. And what is that power? The force of will. Shall have power to take upon themselves the semblance of corporeal bodies and appear and talk face to face with mortals. Every 3,000 years, Jehovah gave this sign on earth. See that? So the Bible got vague verses that'll leave you questioning what does this mean, but then we can explain it in the deeper context of the meaning, because it's spiritual. So anything spiritual in the Bible, nigga, we got it covered over here. Huh? We got it covered over here. You dig? Yes, man, we going in, yo. We going in. So we can touch on so many things. We could touch on so many things. Delivering up the mysteries. Because it survives. Yes, family, large up yourself, big up yourself. Shalom, Aki. You dig? It's peace, love, and unity. What's good, incredible longs? I see you. What's good? We just building, having a great time like we always do. Peace, love, and unity. You know what I mean? Collab, peace to the God. What's good, King? Peace to the brother chomped in, man. Yeah, we just going in, dropping some lessons, some spirituality, some spiritual lessons, spiritual light. You know what I mean? Roger, I see you. Peace to the people chiming in the chat. Big up to the fam. Big up to the fam, yo. It survived. Let's raise the music and let's vibe out for a minute. We've been going in pretty heavy for the last about 2 hours. Let's vibe for a minute, fam. Oh, yeah. It survives. We got brother Collab in the building. You know what I mean? The young phenom rising up in the ranks. To all my people who want to be a guest speaker, hit me up. You can come up with a topic and you can speak on the subject matter. Present your case. This is not a debate, but just present information. Because everybody has information that they may be sharp in, an area that they may be sharp in, that they may want to express. So we can get it out over here, you dig? It survives. go into the cosmos. We rising up into the cosmos, you see it. We up in the ether right now. We up and out in the ether, cause that's where we headed. A corporeal body I gave man that he may learn corporeal things, but death I made that he may inherit my etherian worlds, which is the world you see. Look at those worlds, endless worlds in creation. And you have angels that have discovered and traveled a lot of these worlds, and just as many worlds they have not discovered, still coursing in the Father's creation. All praise to the Creator. It's your boy Selah, Shalom, signing out. It's a vibes. It's Vibe Family.